government going to enforce economic inequality? I might have more luck if I made some comparisons and told you that next year Buckingham Palace is going to be renovated to the tune of £369 million, whilst there are more homeless people on the streets of London than there are people in Norwich. Again, though, for right now, a lot of people in my country are okay with that. If you're one of those people, you might say, well, obviously it looks bad if you compare them side by side, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to get rid of the royals. We could keep the monarchy, but fund more affordable housing through social development, progressive social markets in the first-time buyers, helping first-time buyers with mortgages and, opportunities for the first-time mortgage havers in the social mobility. The development is so important. Mortgage intact with the first-time. And everyone's eyes will glaze over so much that they won't notice you slowly take out a £10 note and begin to wank over it. I could tell you that the monarchy is undemocratic, and it is, but so is lots of stuff. Our electoral system, the House of Lords, for instance. Hell, Theresa May was Prime Minister of the country for a whole year before ever winning a general election. She wasn't even elected to be the leader of her own party because members of the Conservative Party are not allowed to vote on who leads them. We live most of our lives in very undemocratic institutions. The companies that you work for and interact with, your landlord, really, our state democracy is a very thin layer of paint over a society in which we're used to not having control. So if we got rid of the monarchy on the grounds that they're undemocratic, we'd have to get rid of all of that stuff as well. Now, as a matter of fact, I think we probably should get rid of all of that stuff. But I imagine it'd probably be a harder sell if I tried to pitch you abolishing the monarchy as part of a big revolutionary package like that. And if there's one thing I know about my country, it's that we never rush headlong into massive, irreversible political decisions without knowing exactly what kind of a deal we're gonna be getting. I don't need to finish this joke. Some might say that a constitutional monarchy is a good thing, because an apolitical head of state acts as a potential barrier against tyrants. And for the sake of argument, I'm just going to assume that that's correct and not mention that an elected head of state could do that same job. So yes, the British monarch does have the power to refuse royal assent to acts of parliament, which they could do if parliament ever tried to do something really bad. However, no monarch has actually done that since 1708, which means that in 310 years, either the prevention of tyranny has not been required, or those lazy bloody royals living on benefits haven't done their one job. Neither one of which makes the institution of the British monarch look particularly good. Some, like 19th century writer Walter Bagehot, argue that the royal family represents us on the world stage. They're the faces of Britain. But we could elect somebody to do that job. What Bagehot means is he wants these people in particular to be our representatives because he wants to f*** them. And this is the thing. No matter the rational arguments I make, everybody wants to f*** the Queen. We're DTF, HM, in a heartbeat. So much so that not giving a shit, not actively wanting to f*** the Queen, is kind of a radical and noteworthy stance. In the essay Royal Bodies, Hilary Mantel writes that when it comes to the monarchy, we're almost compelled to take it seriously. What they wear, where they go, what they name their kids. So much of the media about the royals presumes by its very existence that this is important. That's what discourse about royals comes to. A compulsion to comment, a discourse empty of content, mouthed rather than spoken. In fact, the BBC newsreader Simon McCoy is kind of infamous for refusing to take part in this performance and openly not giving a toss about the royal family. Mr. Brooker, cue the music, please.
Their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, are delighted to confirm they are expecting a baby. I'm not sure how much news this really is, but anyway, it's April, so clear your diaries, get the time booked off, because that's what I'm doing.
Hopefully you should be able to see Meghan round about now. Can you just see her?
No.
She's in a dark coat.
I know what she looks like, Sarah. We can't see her. Plenty more to come from here, of course. None of it news, because that'll come from Buckingham Palace. But that won't stop us.
Simon McCoy, the only man in Britain who wouldn't f*** the Queen. Wanting to f*** the Queen is so baked into our national complex that when an anti-monarchist was elected leader of the Labour Party, the country's biggest opposition and the biggest political party in Europe, it was a big deal. In barely concealed tones of outrage, the Daily Express called his views shocking and said that they would come as no surprise to those who had branded him disloyal and disrespectful. Why won't you f*** the Queen, Jeremy? Why won't you just get in there and give it to her with your socialist penis? In fairness, since then, the leader of the Labour Party has said that he probably would f*** the Queen if the majority of British people wanted him to, although he would still be reluctant to come inside. So often, especially in philosophy, we like to think about different types of governments in terms of the moral and philosophical principles that are supposed to underlie them. Principles like freedom and democracy and the facts. But one of the things I found in all the conversations I've had with people about the royal family is that it kind of comes down to taste. Some people just like having them there and hearing about them, which is a bit of a funny way to describe somebody's attitude towards the system of government that controls their life, but there you go.
Meghan looked absolutely fantastic. She'd obviously considered her outfit quite carefully. It was very appropriate. She was wearing a dark dress by a label called Paroche and a white belted jacket, a coat by a label called Line the Label, which is from Toronto, very fittingly, because that's the city where she's been based to film Suits quite recently. And I think it was a very understated, elegant look that made maximum show of her diamond ring, which is what everyone was clamouring to see today. I think we will see something slightly different this time. It won't be on quite the same scale as the wedding of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Obviously, with the Duke of Cambridge being the future king.
I was just wondering, what do philosophers think of people who think the Earth is... I'll just reference the video you made a year ago, it's fine.
I could tell you that the royals are expensive and outdated and daft, but plenty of the things that we cling to are. Christmas is just around the corner, and I love Christmas carols, even though I don't believe in God. And I actually find some of the moral messages of a lot of carols to be kind of distasteful. So I'm honestly stumped when it comes to making rational arguments against the monarchy, because so often the response has just been, hey, don't kink shame me for loving the royal family. I'm sick of being loved and respected all the bloody time. I just want a regal, dominating top to invoke their royal prerogative and control me like the filthy f***ing peasant that I am. Or alternatively, I get off on dominating other people and I like a challenge, so naturally I'm going to find the most powerful and influential person I can. And then f*** them. Alternatively, both. And, they go on to say, what would Britain even be without the monarchy? We're a nation of weird perverts, united in our desire to all f*** the same old rich person, and then when they die, f*** their eldest adult child. What, are we going to have a president? You want President Theresa May? Then we'd be just like the bloody Americans. Presidents aren't sexy. Except for James Abram Garfield. The royal family, and wanting to f*** them, is a huge part of some people's British identity. And I could point out that British identity is, in the philosophy jargon, an imagined community, or to put it in layman's terms, a bunch of made-up bollocks. What it is to be British, or indeed from any nation, is pretty vague and woolly and quickly unravels once you start pulling on it, simply because we have a lot more in common with the other peoples of the earth than we do differences. So once you take a step back, you start to wonder why you made such a big deal out of those differences in the first place, and whether they really did divide you from your fellow human beings as sharply as you once thought. I could say that, but again, I don't know if you'd be convinced, because even though Britishness is kind of a vague and woolly idea, it does a lot of work. Just because it's hard to define doesn't mean people aren't using it. Politically, conversationally, theoretically, emotionally, sexually.
British values.
British values.
The values our Parliament represents.
Being British cannot be defined. But I would defy anyone in this chamber this evening to tell me that I'm not British. You cannot define the term, but it's a feeling. And when I got that feeling, I want sense. You have feeling.
Britishness is invoked a lot, like the name of a spirit in a magic spell. So me just pointing out that maybe it doesn't make much rational sense, I don't think it's going to work. And one of the major ingredients